Good morning, everyone. This is Smashy Business Show. I am Warid Ahmed, and I have Majid with me today, and it is the 3rd of March. It's a Monday. It's the first day of us being back to work, with it being Ramadan.
Yeah.
Ramadan Kareem to all of you. I hope you're, enjoying this time of the year. I know that a lot of you are excited because you get to leave work early and you get to go home. But honestly, how are you feeling about that, Majid?
Good. It's a good month to rejuvenate, recuperate, all the words, re-energize. I think it's a good cleansing for soul and for body and for everything. That's my honest opinion on it.
I agree with you too, and I think what's really lovely about this month is the fact that if you're a Muslim here, then you know that in Ramadan, the devil is locked away. Yeah. So whatever behavior we see in the business world, whatever behavior you may all find to be devilish, just know that it's humans.
Yeah.
It's just humans doing their daily work and being themselves.
Yeah.
I would say that's my biggest observation here.
You get training for 11 months for all the bad things from Satan. So this is 1 month where you have to forget all your training and prepare for the next 11 months.
Yeah, and the doors of mercy are open in Ramadan. So, if you did anything which was, unethical, this is a time to apologize and seek forgiveness. Funny enough, Majid, whenever I'm on the way to work with my cousin and I'm just speaking to him about work in general, and telling him about the kind of work mentalities that exist in certain Arab cultures and the kind of expectations that they have for women. Something that my cousin always tells me is that there is never anything wrong with halal work. Yeah. And basically, for those of you who aren't Muslim, basically the word halal, it's something halal. It's something allowed in Islam.
Yeah.
It's something allowed.
Religiously allowed.
Yeah, it's something religiously allowed, and the reason he would say that to me is because the kind of environment that I grew up in Majid is that I remember the first time I had gotten my first job, my aunts came to me and you know what they told me? They were like, no daughter of ours is gonna stand in a mall and cater to people. No daughter of ours.
And then?
I didn't listen to them, obviously, because I needed the money. I was like, what are you on about? You can't just not provide for me and then tell me not to work because I'm a girl. But
there's a lot of misconceptions about women and work in Islam. The only story that I tell anyone who has a doubt is Hazrat Khadija, the Prophet's first wife.
Yeah.
She was a business lady. She did business. She met a lot of people. She had business meetings. So it's allowed. It's nowhere it says that women have to just stay at home. It's a very, very liberal religion when it comes to women and working. Yeah. And so there's a lot of misconceptions in the West, to be honest. Whenever I recently went to Qatar, I had a lot of chats with a lot of people. And one of the chats was with a woman from Qatar. She was Qatari. Yeah. And just your talk reminded me of that point where I asked her about how's the work environment here for women, because we listen to a lot of stories from Saudi Arabia that women participation is increasing day by day.
Yeah.
UAE, we see that they have a rule in the board there should be one woman at least in all the places. So there's a lot of rules that we learn about from UAE and Saudi. We don't hear stories about Qatar, Bahrain, Oman. What's the situation there? And she told me that it's very progressive here as well. It's same like UAE and Saudi Arabia. We're given preferential treatment now, just because of the fact that for a long time we've been told that no, home, this and that, but now the government, the Prime Minister, the Amir, everyone, they have very progressive policies for women. The maternity leaves are great.
Yeah.
All the things that come with being a woman in a workplace, we are given very nice treatment. So the idea that the West still has that, women are only at home, they'll stay at home and they do nothing, they're not allowed. That's the thing that they go with, the Western media, that they're not allowed. It's no, it's not true. We've been very progressive for a lot of years now.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, the Minister of State of Entrepreneurship in the UAE, Ali Al-Mazroui, is a woman. And I saw her at STEP, and oh my God, Majid, we made eye contact. I was going to go up to her to interview her, but she just had such, she had this regal queen energy of do not disturb me. And so that day I trusted my gut and I'm like, you know what, do not disturb. Do not disturb. But, you know, there's lovely women in this region. Like, for example, Noor Suwaid, who, you know, she was the first woman to launch an IPO in the Middle East. So, you know, but...
So we have great women to look forward to. We did this story about the Saudi billionaire.
Yes.
And it went viral.
You know,
I think it was the music who
her
ruled
name,
the world.
I believe Eman. I believe her name.
I'm looking for the name.
Ahmed.
But yeah, she went viral and we got so many new women followers because I think that's the trend that people want to see women
They
in
do.
powerful places
And you know what's really
to support
interesting?
women.
Majid, I had somebody who messaged me and they were like, oh, I really want to interview her. Do you know her contact? And I'm like, ma'am, this is not sponsored. This is news.
Yeah.
Like, this is news. Like, when we're talking about women, it's not necessarily a sponsorship. This is actually news. This is something that came in. She was doing something important.
Lubna Ulayan, and she's the head of Dara Holdings, and she's a Saudi billionaire. So she basically the Miami Impact event, which happened where Trump said a lot of things about one of our Princess Rima, that she, according to him, is the most powerful woman in the world. It is at that point where the CEO of the company was sitting, and he talked about it, and he talked about how Lubna Ulayan is trying her best to empower female-led startups. So we did the story because of that. It wasn't a sponsored post.
You know what's really interesting? She doesn't have presence on social media.
Yeah, right.
I went on X, I went on Instagram. She's not there. And yet
The interesting thing is these people, they sit behind the screen. They don't want to come in front. They come to these events, obviously, because they're invited, because they are expert and opinion leaders. But you're right that they don't want to like tell everyone that they're doing such great work, right?
That's not a bad thing, Majid,
they're just doing it.
Because I feel like nowadays we've all kind of gotten into this perception of that if somebody is in front of the screen, if they're constantly in front of our face, the same way that Beyonce is always in our face, that, you know, they're important. And it's like, you know, back to this again, I really want to maintain the Ramadan spirit throughout the podcast for this, you know, for these like 30 days. But I was watching this like Islamic video, and, you know, there was this man and he was saying that, you know, as a human being, no matter how far you go in life and no matter how much you do, you should never walk around thinking that you're more superior in status, that you're doing more to other people, because there might be somebody you don't know who's making such a difference, and God knows. Like, God knows what they're doing. Do you understand what I mean? And I think this is why people. Her name's Lubna. This is why women like Lubna, people like Lubna, are really special because of the fact that, you know, you can see that the difference that she's making. She's not making it to you know, try and get headlines, to try and be in the media. You know, it's something that she really means. And Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, you know, they really meant it when they banned PwC from advisory and consulting contracts until February 2026. And, you know, for all of you who don't realize how much of a big topic this is the Big Four. This is the Big Four that, you know, we see being banned by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund that is nearly worth $1 trillion according to Bloomberg. I mean, the significance of this, it's crazy. And PwC in Saudi Arabia, it has over 2,000 employees. And I believe that they established their headquarters just recently in 2022. So not that far ago, but the reason why this is so big is because of the fact that this is the Big Four. This is the Big Four that's being told, you need to take a step back. You know, we're putting a leash on you. And I find that so interesting. But why do you think this happened, Majid? You know, no official reasoning was provided to any of us.
We tried to tag them everywhere, so just to get an answer out of someone who is working at that firm even. But we haven't gotten any. Bloomberg hasn't gotten any. No one has an idea why it happened. But there's obviously rumors and speculations around it. There's a lot of questions on the repackaging theory. Everywhere I see someone is talking about this repackaging theory. And I went and I was like, okay, let's Google it. Maybe it is something in literature which we talk about. It's nothing in literature. It's just the idea that these big consultancy firms, they have this one set of expertise or one set of opinions which they put into a new title slide, which they put with new colors and new PowerPoint presentations, and they'll just sell it to everyone. So if you come for a consultancy, for example, Neom project, PwC, if Saudi PIF was consulting them on NEOM, they just repackage some other work that I've already done for some other construction project, put it into new slides, change the colors, change the pictures, and this gave it to them for, I think, millions of dollars. Because these are the big four. They charge a lot for doing consultancy on these things.
And their people get a lot, but die a lot, you know?
Yeah.
They get a lot of money, but, you know.
It's very difficult to work on those places. And one of my uncles who's been here in the UAE for 35 years, he works for one of this, I think it's the second biggest company, Bureau Veritas, the French name. He was into consultancy. I had a small chat with him. He's in Canada nowadays.
Yeah.
But he told me that it's the, because I know his work, because I keep asking him about his work. So from there, I deduced that it's such a big industry. Just look at the numbers. They got like 1.97 billion pounds in revenue from Middle East in the last year, PwC. So I want to go to another direction to just give you an example, like Condé Nast story we did recently. You remember?
Yeah.
The Condé Nast story about Nervora and the whole them taking back GQ Middle East, and the other one, Harper's. Sorry, what was the other magazine?
It was GQ,
Vogue,
and Vogue.
Vogue and
Yeah.
Vogue Arabia and GQ. They took it in-house. They took the rights from Nervora to publish it. GQ was with ITP, so they took that back as well. And you remember the argument that we saw from a lot of people was they were doing good in the region.
Yeah.
They were making a lot of money in the region. Likewise, PwC is making so much money in the region. They established their presence in 2022, opened an office. I saw the pictures. It was a very big, grand ceremony which took place when they opened their office. But they're not doing, I think, justice to the money that they're getting. And that is why it is one of the rumors and one of the speculations and one of the opinions that we've seen on social media that are not living up to the hype that has been created.
I don't just think it's hype, but the way that I think of the Big Four is that, you know, they're still they're still they're still traditional. And the world is changing now, Majid, and people don't realize it. Like now to have wealth and to have something of importance, you can't just necessarily work at one of these traditional companies and hold a corporate job like that and, you know, life will be normal. You need to be a part of the media. Like this is something I've truly noticed, whether you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're an accountant. You need like branding. You need branding. You need to be on social media. So I do believe in the theory that you proposed, because it's like, you know, these outdated practices, what I've noticed is that the one key factor that's always absent in them is media. It's marketing. So, but I think for me, what's interesting is that, you know, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, it owns a lot of companies. It owns a lot of companies. They have a lot of subsidiaries. So the fact that they've banned PwC from this, I find that really interesting. It's a sign that they don't trust them. And by the way, like, you know, this is not the first time that something like this has happened. Like, for example, last year, the local operations of the global audit firm KPMG has been penalized by the registration authority of Abu Dhabi's global market, and they were actually fined $30,000 for basically having, quote unquote, according to the Gulf News, ineffective systems and controls which led to non-compliance with audit requirements under the registration authority administered legislation. But this is so interesting, and for the longest time ever, Majid, I feel like these Big Four have made mistakes and they've been excused for them. Like, I'll give you an example. This is like a very big story in the UK. Sorry about that. This is a very big story in the UK. It's called the post office scandal. Yeah. And basically what happened, it involved the post office. And over, I believe, 900 people were tried. A lot of them went to jail. Some committed suicide. They lost their jobs. And it completely affected their livelihood. They all lost their livelihoods. You know why? Basically, there was this system, I believe it's called Horizon. And what it did is that it calculated that there was a shortage of money. And the people who were blamed for this shortage were the post office employees. Even though they had done nothing whatsoever, they were not a part of it. This entire thing was like discovered later. Guess who were the auditors?
KPMG.
It wasn't KPMG, but
Someone big?
it was EY,
EY.
and I believe PwC was involved. But guess what? The blame was completely taken away from them. They were not blamed for it whatsoever. But in this case, like imagine, and by the way, this case, like just only very recently was it discovered that no, actually, all of these people who were tried, who went to jail for years, all of their money, all of their bank accounts were frozen, by the way, all of their money taken away from them. Guess what? They were tried unfairly.
Yeah.
And this was discovered later on. And why? It's all the fault of the auditor. I think that over time, what ended up happening is that, auditors, they're not held to accountability. It's your job to spot these mistakes.
Yeah.
It's your job to see that something is wrong. So, EY, KPMG, and now PwC, it's clearly signaling to all of us that, something is wrong here. And, I'm not just saying this because I was rejected from PwC. I'm actually saying this because something is wrong here. Something is going on here. And honestly, bless. By the way, Majid, that was the route that I wanted to take. And I was very adamant on it, that I wanted to work for a big four consultancy firm. And by the way,
That's the dream for every finance or auditing student.
No, really, it is. And I could have, by the way, there's a lot of people who are connected to that network, and they told me that, we could possibly help you. But now that I think about it, I don't think I'd ever want to be doing that job. A lot of people who do it are so depressed. It's almost sickening. Why is that your state? I don't think that, by the way, I don't think any job should make anybody feel that way. Yeah. I really don't think so. Unless you really love it, like me and you, who are completely crazy, and go home and find a really good story and just start writing it up, you put me on that habit. But anyways.
But in the recent past, PwC was banned by China. We were talking about it before the show. They fined 50.86 million euros in dirhams, it's at least 100 plus millions, and for their auditing work. Right now in Saudi, they're banned from consulting. They're still carrying on their auditing work. But in September last year, not that far away, China banned them for 6 months, 100 million plus dirhams and 50.86 million euros of fine. The problem was that PwC China concealed fraud in the Evergrande audit. That's one of the companies they were auditing. They concealed the fraud. So they're not doing good globally as well. Consulting, when I was looking doing the research, using all the AIs that I can find and also Google, I saw a trend throughout the answers and throughout the research that the consultancy business is also not doing great globally. So the consultancy business, people are moving away from these top four, and they're going local. So I think that is one of the reasons. I think Saudi Arabia will also go local. They'll go to their own consultancy firms, which are homegrown, which have done good work, and they'll go to them. They're cheaper. One of the reasons they're cheaper, they have local understanding of the market. So sometimes they will find faults and they will find things that a person who flies from outside, stays in the area for 2 years even, they won't understand. For example, if you take me to Pakistani market and make me auditor, I would know the ways people do fraud because I've lived in that environment. Yeah. I've grown up in that environment.
By the way, I enjoy it whenever you talk about Pakistan.
Yeah, it's because just you have local expertise over your region. You've grown up in UAE. You must have heard stories throughout your life, and you must have heard about things which are common knowledge, but they're not factually placed really in an article or something.
Yeah.
But you know about them.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Right? Because you've lived here. So likewise, Saudi consultancies, I think this is the time to shine for them, to jump in, get the PIF contracts as much as they can, because I think if PwC has been banned, this is the time for them to shine. They should come in, they should prove their expertise, and they should work on the project. So localization, I think, is the best idea right now for any country that is growing, and Middle East is the place which is growing. So Saudis, they're looking for everything startup in their country. Saudis, they have big construction projects which have been given to Italy and French companies. Good. I think the best idea is to bring them, take their expertise, put your kids, your new graduates with them, make them learn from the best, and then be like, thank you very much. Now we have a workforce.
You know what it also is, I think, Majid? I knew somebody who, I know a lot of people who used to work for these consultancy firms, and a trend that I saw is that they're always doing a lot of projects. Like one person per day is like doing a bunch of different consultations for more than one client. I think that's also an issue that they have. They make a lot of money because they have a lot of clients, but if you have a lot of clients per person, how are they meant to give that person their all? If like per day, these are the amount of people that they're dealing with. Like I remember, I had a family friend, she told me that during her 2 years working as a consultant, from the second she'd wake up and she'd go to sleep, she'd be doing PowerPoints. Her entire day was just these PowerPoints. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, well, okay, well, what are you consulting on? Like pretty colors, PowerPoints that look really good. Do you understand what I mean? If you're doing that all day for just different companies, then what's actually the added value that you're providing? But anyways, moving to our next topic. So Microsoft has, it's urged the US to ease their restrictions on AI chips so that they can easily be provided to the Gulf region, to the UAE, to Saudi. And the reason very specifically why this is so important is because, the president of Microsoft, I believe his name is Brad Smith, he reiterated this and he said that, they have an $80 billion AI Microsoft investment. That they're basically trying to expand, and they can't do that if their clients, if certain regions, they don't have access to AI chips, and especially at a time where we're seeing the rise of China, even more so than we have before, especially with DeepSeek. These AI chips, it's important that they're provided to countries in the Gulf region. It's important that it's more easily provided to the UAE, to Saudi Arabia, so that they also have a chance to catch up with China. So, something that I really like about this is that it was spoken about. It was discussed. It was red flag that, this is an issue. We're not just gonna go and find some other market to get it from. It should be within our right to receive it. And that's something that I really like, because often I feel like what we do in life, Majid, is instead of taking the front door, we take the back door. We walk all the way to the back, we find some other hidden market, some other hidden solution, but you shouldn't do that. You can just ask for something and you can receive it. And I think that's what the president of Microsoft is doing for the Middle East.
Before Biden left for Trump, the presidency of the US, he did 4 or 5 things which were very controversial. He pardoned a lot of relatives and he did a lot of stuff. But this AI diffusion rule, which is called the AI diffusion rule, he passed that also, where he made 3 tiers. So the top tier was the best people they trade with and the best people they have so much debt with. Japan has the highest debt on US. US is like all the money, like nearly half of the debt they have is from Japan. So they put Japan in the top list, where there's zero restriction. You can sell them as many chips as you want. I believe Singapore was one of the countries. So it was like a very elite 5-country list. UK was there. I don't remember the next 2. Maybe when I'm talking, I'll remember. But there was a 5-country list, no restrictions. Sell them as many NVIDIA chips or any other chips as you can. Then came the second tier, which included UAE and Saudi Arabia. So there was a horsepower. Why I'm talking about cars. There was a compute power, very technical kind of restriction, that you can only sell this much of chips, which equal to this much compute power. UAE and Saudi were in the tier 2. And there was tier 3, which was completely banned, Iran and all the countries that US hates. So those countries don't get anything. Second tier countries, limited compute power. But we see that UAE and Saudi, they want to be the leaders in AI globally, not regionally. They don't want to be in the Middle East.
And they will do it.
Yeah, they are on their way to do it. So that is what basically Microsoft's Brad Smith is talking about. He wants the UAE, Saudi Arabia, all the Gulf countries, Qatar even, they're trying to build their data centers as well. Anyone who has money right now, to be honest, I asked this to Rich, that if you had money, would you invest in a data center? He was like, for sure, right now. It's the best investment, I think. But the main thing is, these 2 countries, they're trying to be leaders globally. So they need the chips. And this guy knows that if they sell chips, eventually Microsoft's chip, Nvidia's chips, whichever chips are available, UAE and Saudi have the money to buy them right now. So any
not just
company
that,
would want more,
They
right?
deserve the chips.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, look at it. Like Hussein Sajwani.
Going to
you
US, $20 billion.
Going to the U.S., $20 billion in data centers for Trump.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Stargate.
sure that it's going to help with their Stargate
Yeah.
$400 billion Sam Altman project that MGX in Abu Dhabi is backing. I mean, come on.
They're basically bankrolling it.
The UAE, they've been so generous. They've been absolutely generous. So this is the least that they can do is they,
and
they,
we also
they
talked
can provide
about,
them with these
you remember,
with these
we also
chips more
talked about
easily.
G42, that G42, it used a lot of Chinese-backed chips, systems, everything was China-backed because we have very good trade relations with China. So foundations of G42 were laid on Chinese infrastructure and Chinese tools and skills and Chinese chips. But as soon as we signed deals with US for their NVIDIA chips, we had to take everything out, every Chinese thing out, because they thought it can be used to spy on US eventually. Very weird theory, but that's what they did. They told us to remove all the Chinese setup and import European and American setup and plant that into our systems, as if they're not going to spy on us. But that is what we did for them. That is one of the biggest sacrifices I think we did to make our relations with US stronger. But still, when you see this list then, and you're like, okay, we're in tier 2, we're not the top 5 countries, we're in tier 2. That makes you question the relationship that UAE and US have right now. We're doing so much for them, they need to return the favor back. It's not like we're a very underdeveloped, very small economy which relies on US for everything. We just rely on you for chips. Either send them to us, like sell them to us properly, however much we want, or just don't act like you're our friends. It's very, I think it goes into a political dynamic as well, that if you're doing tit for tat, I scratch your back, you scratch my back, all these things work in this scenario, that we're doing so much, you also return the favor, if not more, at least equally. So, yeah, Microsoft guy, I think he's right, because he sees the potential in UAE and Saudi and Gulf countries. $1.5 billion deals we have with Microsoft, which was signed by G42 and Microsoft. Microsoft built 2 data centers in Abu Dhabi last year. It's all like a summary of last year. There's a lot of things that Microsoft did. They're training 100,000 government employees in UAE on AI, so AI's government becomes AI efficient. They're training same number in Saudi. So they are very active in the region. That is why they know that. I think it's like a divergent tactic that UAE use.
And they're also very diverse, by the way. I know people who work for Microsoft, and the employees that they have, like they're from all over the world. But
I
Majid,
personally think this is a divergent tactic. UAE didn't want to be direct with Trump, like, bro, we need the chips. They're like, these are the partners that we work with, and they're US based. They should go and tell Trump that our business is being affected because of this rule. And Trump has a very nice habit of...
such a power move, by the way, Majid. The fact that they don't need to speak, they can
I think
just
Trump will just sign one executive order. He's been doing that since he's been in power, every day signing a new executive order about something. But I think he can just sign an executive order and bring UAE, Saudi, at least these 2 powerhouses in tier 1. Let the AI diffusion rule remain, no problem. But at least promote us to tier 1, because we need that computing power.
And you know, like Majid, just like speaking of like, you know, being promoted, of, you know, returning the favor, I just wonder, I really wonder to myself, what favors, what promotions is Israel returning to the U.S., so much so that the U.S., once again, they've signed a declaration to accelerate the delivery of $4 billion in military aid to Israel. And, you know, now, coming up now, from the amount that they've actually invested in total is $12 billion. I believe that before Biden actually left the office, they even invested over $5 billion into weaponry aid to Israel. And you know, when I take a look at this topic, it's truly such a shame. But I've always asked myself, what do they get in return here? Seriously, like, what are they getting in return? Like, I know they're getting something in return. They have to be getting something in return. The favor has to be returned, but how so? You know, I feel like it's an answer that we never get, and you know, it's really disappointing and disheartening to read this, because we've seen what Palestine looks like now.
Yeah.
You know what Gaza looks like now. It's completely heartbreaking. You know, there's nothing to look at. It's just gray land. And you know, imagine like something that really makes me angry is I've never honestly understood why the topic of Israel and Palestine, it's such a debate. I've never understood it, by the way. In the sense of, I understand why talking about it is important, of course. The more awareness, the better. But I've never understood why it's something up to debate. Like, I feel like a debate is if, like, you told me, Ward, I like Krispy Kreme donuts, and I told you, no, I like Dunkin' Donuts. Both of our perspectives can seamlessly exist in the same realm. That's a debate. But what's happening to Gaza, what's happening to Palestine, that's not up to debate.
Yeah.
And it's so sickening to constantly hear these politicians and all of these officials and all of these characters who all sit together and they have to talk about it. And it's like, this is not a debate.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very human matter. It's just, yeah, it's very disheartening.
I think Trump should have had the same tone he had with Ukraine's Zelensky recently. We saw it was a big... he himself called it good TV, good television, where he was shouting and Zelensky was shouting and then the other guy was shouting. He wasn't shouting and it was a
Did you
shouting
see what
match.
Zelensky said? I think he told Trump, he was like, you know, your voice is getting louder,
Yeah.
but your logic is not getting better or something.
Yeah.
I know it was really interesting. And especially watching it on live TV
Yeah.
with my dad,
And
I
you
was
see the
entertained.
hypocrisy on television, live television, to be honest. He
Yeah.
talks to Netanyahu. Netanyahu visits. They're like chummy, they're friends. He's talking about it so nicely to him, very humble in front of him. And then you see Zelensky coming. One is the aggressor. Israel is carrying a genocide in Gaza. Trump treats him nicely. Ukraine being invaded by Russia, there's a whole conflict, the whole war. Everyone knows about it. Has been there for like 2-3 years now. Everyone knows about it. He treats him differently. So there is an aggressor in the room with Trump. He says nothing to him. And now they're signing deals for them, like $3 billion. The interesting part of this whole story was not the $3 billion amount. They've been sending so much military aid to US, from US to Israel, that you can't even count it. And then
And
there
it's
was...
in billions.
It's not even in billions. It's in billions. The problem is that they're going through a lot of steps which are taken. In the Biden administration, they introduced a rule which clearly said that whenever such deals, military aid or any deal is signed between two countries, US will look at the human rights record and the use of those weapons. They'll see that in military aid we gave so many tanks, what did they do with it? That was signed in the Biden administration. As soon as Trump came in, he removed that rule. So now you can get emergency funding approvals in military aid
More
for
easier.
countries. Yeah, so it's easier to just send military equipment to Israel now. And Trump removed that clause. Okay, under Biden, it also happened that emergency approvals for military aid were taken for Israel. They didn't go to congressional review. They don't go to Congress. No one reviews them. They just get passed and stuff is sent to them. But even Trump is carrying on with that. So also, we saw Trump's AI video, the new Gaza, and we
Yeah.
saw so much
Trump
like
Gaza.
he said that, oh, we'll build a new Gaza, we'll displace the people
With
to some
Elon
places,
Musk in
build
it.
a new.
And you know what's so
It's
strange? By the way,
weird.
the entire AI video, it had Burj Al Arab in it.
Yeah,
And
it was made with AI, so right.
It was just so strange. But you know, Majid, what I don't understand here, this is when I'm trying to connect the dots. And because, you know, Reuters, they've released multiple articles on this, by the way. Number one, there is a high rate of Israelis who are leaving Israel. A high rate of skilled Israelis, you know, who are part of the workforce, who are going to other countries. Number two, Israel's very economy is actually suffering. You know, because of the genocide that they're raging.
All the credit rating agencies have put them in the worst category possible. Their recent budget was passed by like very minor one vote. So imagine even in people sitting in the government, they're against what Israel is doing. Because of the war, they have to take money from people in taxes, in tariff, in 100 different ways. They're charging the people of Israel for the war.
For what they're raging.
So they are going into debt a lot. It's really ruining their economy.
So this is what I don't understand, you know, and we all know Trump, you know, he's not our friend, But we all know Trump. He's a businessman. What are you getting in return here?
That's the funny
I
part.
feel like that is the biggest question in his, like, what are you getting in return? What is Netanyahu giving you? What is Israel giving you in return for you to give them all of this? This is an answer that I would very much like to hear out of both of their mouths. Like, what are you giving each other?
Because Trump is very transactional. He would take one thing from you and get something back. So he's very give and take,
And
in equal amounts.
And I think, by the way, like, we're coming closer to this answer as time goes on, especially because of that video where we've seen, Trump Gaza. Is the U.S. trying to acquire more land?
Yeah.
What exactly is going on here?
Politically, it's very complicated. We don't know what will happen. Saudi
No,
tried
I just want to
to
know the money. What money is Trump getting back here?
Yes, right? Trump is a very business person. What is he getting out of this whole thing is the question. We'll get an answer soon enough. We'll know what happens. But to be honest, a concluding note, Gaza needs rebuilding. A lot of people want that rebuilding contract.
Yeah.
Because rebuilding takes a lot of money.
Actually, very interesting.
Through funds
Sorry,
and
Majid,
NGOs.
just very recently, I believe it was the UN and WHO, they all came together and they released a report.
It was IMF, World Bank, UN's, the humanitarian aid part. Sorry, completely forgot that name. IDP.
Yeah, and Gaza
IDP
requires more than $50 billion to
UNDP,
be rebuilt.
sorry, United Nations Development Program,
Yeah.
IMF,
And they require
need a
more
lot
than
of money.
$50 billion to rebuild. And I remember that I made a video on it. And what's so interesting is the video barely got any views. And by the way,
Shadow bans.
I know this exists, by the way, because even in the caption, I didn't mention Gaza. I didn't tag it. And I've been seeing this with other creators too, who, like, for example, like Yusuf Omar, Seen TV. He has seen Palestine and their purpose. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
he was
what they're
there as
doing.
well at Web Summit.
And Majid, like, he's always talking about Palestine, and I'll look at the views, and you don't get that many views. And you know why it concerns me? Because, me and Majid, we're digital journalists. That's our job. And when you see the amount of views that you're getting in certain posts, obviously you will naturally cover topics more that garner more attention. And so the fact that when Gaza is covered, when Palestine is covered, the fact that it doesn't get any views, that is so concerning, because suddenly
People are
it's
actually
like,
talking about it.
we all are talking about it, but it's suddenly, you have to realize this. Is the algorithm ruling our world? Is the algorithm, dictating who we become? And it
What
sort
we
of
talk
has
about.
this like hidden power over all of us that we don't realize, because we're just in chase of the views, we're in chase of the likes. And so it's like, it's actually, like Majid, it's dictating all the conversations that we're having. Because we'll have the conversations that more people will see, of course. So it's just...
But we'll still keep talking about it.
We'll still keep talking about it, indeed. And this is Smashy Business Show, a Smashy Business production under the Augustus Media Podcast Network. You can find our newsletter on Smashy TV. Please make sure to follow us on all of our channels, and have a lovely day.